Peter Navarro, the former Trump trade advisor on trial for contempt of Congress, is out literally begging for money. He says he is $1.4 million short of what his legal defense will cost. He's not the only one. Rudy Giuliani's been pleading with Trump to help pay his legal fees. All he's gotten is Trump signing on to his fundraiser. Jenna Ellis, another Trump lawyer who was indicted alongside him in the Georgia case, has publicly complained that Trump is not paying the mounting legal bills for her or any of her other co-conspirators. And one of the Proud Boys, sentenced to 17 years for seditious conspiracy, is hoping that Donald Trump will be reelected and pardon them. I've got to say, for any of you watching who either have been or are considering being a co-conspirator to Donald Trump, I don't think it's going to work out well. Perhaps the biggest expert on limitations of Trump's loyalty is his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, now host and co-host of 2 podcasts, the author of Revenge, How Donald Trump Weaponized the Department of Justice Against His Critics, and Heat joins me now. Well, Michael, I thought of you as I was watching Peter Navarro.
I'm glad you thought of me, Chris.
Well, no one was following you around with a whistle. Be thankful for that. But just sort of in dire straits. I mean, talk about left holding the bag. What do you think?
Well, look, Peter should have understood early on. It's not as if we haven't been yelling this from the rooftops. Donald doesn't care about anyone or anything other than himself. Look at how many different people have now ended up going away, really at the direction of, in concert with, and for the benefit of Donald J. Trump. And he doesn't pay legal fees. In fact, Peter should have seen this as well. It took me 4 years in a lawsuit in order to bring Donald to the table, in order to get legal fees that were due to other lawyers that I brought on in order to defend me. And my case, unlike Peter's and so many others, mine was done in 48 hours. So you could imagine when he says he's 1.4 million shy, he has no clue what he's talking about. For an economist, he really doesn't know numbers.
Well, here's the thing. When he said that number, I thought, yeah, that's high. But also, I can imagine these things are high. I mean, he had a 1-day trial today or 2-day trial. But when you look at Jenna Ellis, the other folks in these RICO cases, I mean, my God. I mean, that just seems like it's going to be an unbelievably costly enterprise. And I guess my question to you is, wouldn't you think, it seems to me there's 2 opposing forces, his cheapness and his self-interest, because you would think it would be in his self-interest to just take care of everyone, to keep everyone inside the tent.
You know, there's a problem with that. He doesn't have the money for it. And when he raises money from these unsuspecting MAGAs, these morons that are just doling out money to him on a daily basis, he knows that he's going to need that money for the multitude and the plethora of litigation that's coming at him over the course of the next year. So he's not thinking about anyone else. He has no interest in reaching into his own pocket if, in fact, that he actually has cash within which to pay all of these various lawyers, which I don't think he does. I think as a result of everything that's been going on, Trump may be cash poor. He may have assets, but he could be cash poor. And so he relies upon the donations that they're getting from these MAGA supporters in order, for him to protect himself. That, I believe, is the problem. So every dollar that he spends on a Rudy Kaludi, every dollar he spends on a Peter Navarro, a Jenna Ellis, or any of the other co-defendants in not just this case, but in all of the various cases, is a dollar less that he'll have for himself. He's selfish.
It's a strange situation. I think I don't know his finances to know whether he is or is not cash poor, although you can see that he's raising a ton of money on, for his lawyers. One other fascinating implication of that is, there's pretty good evidence it's a sort of zero-sum pot, and money that would otherwise go to Republican candidates, particularly Republican state, like that is all that money. It's not like an infinitely expandable pot. Like that money that would go to this congressional candidate in a swing seat, this senator, it's being eaten up by Donald Trump's legal fundraising.
Chris, let me be very clear about something, right? Put this onto the scales of justice. It's Donald's legal fund, the RNC.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
The answer is it will always end up in Donald's pocket. Again, he's selfish that way. He will not allow a dollar to go anywhere else. In fact, my understanding is money that they had raised and given to a super PAC that was for his benefit for the re-election campaign. He's now asking for that money back so that he could use it for legal fees. I mean, like I said, this is not somebody who is, it's not the actions of somebody who's cash rich. That's certainly for sure.
I think I've asked you a version of this before, but I'll ask again because it feels newly relevant, particularly given that Peter Navarro tape and watching these parade of folks who are convicted of such seditious conspiracy they're going to do 15 years, 16 years, 17 years federal prison. This is an enormous amount of time, right? Your freedom, everything taken away from you. You had some penny drop moment where you're like, this guy is not loyal to me. What is it that keeps people from seeing that before they have that moment?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I probably give you the same answer I gave you before. It's stupidity. I mean, for whatever reason, you get entrenched into this dumpster cult of Donald Trump, and why Peter Navarro decided to, show contempt to the court or contempt to the congressional subpoena.
So dumb.
I have no idea. It's so stupid. If you think about it, it's so stupid. Show up, do what you're required to do.
And plead the fifth.
Right, and plead the fifth is right. Instead, he failed to comply, and now he's going to suffer the repercussions. And he has no clue on the extent of the repercussions that he's now going to be confronted with. First of all, after the conviction, which I believe he will be convicted, not only do you lose your banking relationships, your credit cards start contacting you now that you're a felon, right? They then drop you, your banks drop you, you can't get loans. You lose your license for whatever it is that you did. If he's a teacher or a professor, you're going to lose that gig, your family's happiness. I mean, the extent of the damage that Donald Trump causes for those people who get caught up, like myself, in this cult of Trump, this dumpster cult, it's so far-reaching that Peter Navarro has not yet even contemplated the full extent of it.
Whew, dire warning, Michael Cohen.
I'll go one step further for you. You saw when he was grabbing at that sign of that woman.
Yeah.
I'm going to now warn him to keep his hands to himself. There was a lawsuit, the Galizia case that Donald Trump, had with his with Keith Schiller, his former bodyguard, where they grabbed the sign from somebody and they ended up paying out a pretty substantial amount. So Peter should learn to keep his hands to himself.
I think the Anarchy Princess agrees with you, standing behind him. Michael Cohen, thank you very much. I appreciate it.